Mr. Pardeshi, welcome to News 9.
Thank you.
Tell us what MITRA is doing and how key it is for Maharashtra's $1 trillion economy target.
So, MITRA is the think tank and the planning board rolled into one for Maharashtra. Just like the government of India set up the NITI, which is basically the futuristic think tank, the policy maker for India, this is NITI for states. So, MITRA is that. Now, looking at the 1 trillion economy, we are roughly half a trillion, just slightly less than half a trillion. So, it will require a growth rate per year of about 17% if we have to reach it by 28. Also, our current rate of investment in our GSDP is hardly 21-22%. That needs to climb to roughly about 30%. That is, we need to increase our capital formation. So these are the two big picture things that MITRA is working on to make it happen. MITRA is about not answering the question what, it is about answering the question how. Because we all know what, that is, we need to increase our rate of saving, we need to increase our capital formation, we need to increase our rate of growth, we need to get more semiconductors industry, more solar, all this is the what, how. So on the first how, we are working very deeply on additional resource mobilization, which doesn't burden the taxpayer. Because if you will see, Maharashtra has some of the highest tax rates, which are our domestic tax rates. That is, so whether it is the registration dues on properties or the municipal property taxes, we have quite high rates. The sum and substance, we can't raise them further.
Yes.
So we can't get more revenue simply by raising taxes. And it's also very hardship for the citizens.
Yes.
We are looking at non-tax resources. The first one is, of course, the international banks. The whole world is today full of unutilized capital. But people say we'll give you money, but it's not easy. So what I have done in the last 1 year, we have talked to the Asian Infrastructure Bank, which nobody was going to. And we have already secured and received $1.1 billion. With this $1.1 billion, we are completely solarizing agriculture. Our biggest problem is that in agriculture, about 30% electricity which goes to agriculture is generated from coal-fired power stations, and there's a lot of losses, and it's a big loss making for MITRA. But if you give them a solar pump, they have daytime power. MITRA doesn't have to do a loss-making distribution. They can give cheap industrial power.
Right.
Today, we have to cross-subsidize the farmers to give higher costed power to industry. So that's the first thing, $1 billion already. We're also working a lot on making Maharashtra climate resilient. I'm talking about the futuristic issues, so because there are many small things.
The time frame is the next 20, 25 years or even beyond?
For this solarization, next 5 years. My dream is that in 5 years, the wealth of a farmer is his water.
Yes.
No farmer will depend on grid electricity. He'll have his own electricity, whether it is from mini solar grid or his own solar panel pump. Between the two, he should be self-sufficient and not depend on this distribution grid. And that can happen in the next 5 years. And it's a big climate impact because we are decoupling from CO2 generating electricity, which is coming from coal. How do you ensure that we leverage our 1.4 billion people? We have an average age which is less than 30, and whatever we do, we will not be able to create jobs for, let's say in Maharashtra, about 1 million people per year.
Which is your requirement presently?
And for India as a whole, it's 8 million per year. It may be about 10 million a year. No country is able to generate jobs like this, neither United States nor Western Europe. And surely India will not. So this is a challenge. And now what we are doing is, I have had meetings with the German, Israeli, Japanese and French Consul Generals. What we have done is, we have identified their skill gaps. So these are health carers, because that can be done virtually.
Right.
For a population which is aging, you need physical health carers. Then masons, people who do form work, bar bending, centering work, tile laying, ceramic tiles. They're all quite specialized works.
So skilling is a big challenge for
Yeah,
you.
but very specialized skilling.
Right.
So today we have an agreement, Government of India has an agreement, which we are trying to fulfill from Maharashtra. You know, what's the number? 1 lakh.
Right.
1 lakh specialized construction workers are needed in Israel,
Right.
not in the war zone, in Israel proper, because they don't want to use now any longer
Yes.
the local, you guess who,
Yes.
from Palestine and all.
Right.
They rather use people from India. Of course, we are also better.
Yes.
1 lakh, and they give you a 5-year contract, and they pay roughly about 1.5 lakhs plus food and all, so 2 lakhs. So can you imagine a humble worker
Yes.
who's right now working on some bridge,
Yeah.
5 lakhs, his life is transformed, and it's a circular migration.
Yes.
They work for 5 years, come back, send new people. Similar requirement is there for health workers.
Yes.
And Japan has similar requirement for various technical trades, and so does Germany. So skilling at global standards.
Right.
A person whom we can call a mason or a carpenter in India is not a mason or carpenter for Germany.
Right.
So what are their skilling standards, which they will allow a person to open up, let's say, drainage pipes? We will put that level of skilling in our centers. And second is language. I've talked very specifically of non-Anglophone countries.
So looking at special countries like Israel, Taiwan,
I'm talking about Germany,
Germany.
Japan, France, because these countries, Anglophony doesn't work. So we are putting skilling with the local language.
Right.
So you have been a care worker in Japan, you can't speak Japanese. There's no way you can, you might be the best nurse or whatever.
Right.
So these are the unexplored. So this is our second thing, to convert our future dividends, to ensure that India becomes the skilled supplier of the world.
Right.
Not by immigration, but by circular migration. So that's the second big thing that we are working on.
So where does the defense industrial complexes now? Maharashtra is India's industrial powerhouse,
Yeah.
and has many companies located here like Larsen and Toubro and Mahindra and Mahindra. Where does defense fit?
The Walchand Nagar.
And of course Walchand Nagar, which makes stuff for our strategic submarines.
Yeah.
But where does the defense industrial complex of Maharashtra figure in your plans?
Not only in my plans, but in our Chief Minister's plan. Our ex-Chief Minister, currently Deputy Chief Minister, Mr. Fadnavis, who was from Nagpur, not today, but in 2015, he realized the importance of defense manufacturing. In fact, we both went to Sweden, to US, and of course to HAL and Nagpur. And what we thought that Maharashtra should leverage the presence of large public sector defense undertakings like HAL, Moscow Docks, our defense ordnance factories. But how do you leverage them? So we went deep into the issue, and we realized that we had a workshop. So we called HAL, and we called the downstream industries of HAL. So what HAL said, look, these are my 15 small MSMEs, and I have given them order. And I said, but they are not able to fulfill them. When we talked to the MSME, they said, every time we get a new order, which means we have to set up the production process new, because the part for which we have to manufacture is unique to that particular order. It's not going to be repeated, because each plane is different, so they don't have that sort of capital. So we worked with MIDC to set up, Chief Minister announced there and then we put it in his speech that we'll set up a fund for offset manufacturing. And the collateral will not be anything else. It will be just the offset order. So suppose a company has received an offset order, you don't need to show that much money or your assets, just the offset order, and then you pay us back. We have the first claim on the repayment on the offset. So that's why it became a circular agreement. So getting defense into Maharashtra is a key priority. But in that priority, I think we are being a bit realistic that we would like to support the MSMEs, because it's the MSMEs which will be the first start for the coming of the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Because
You work from the ground up.
More than that, let's say we import Rafale,
Yes.
but entire Rafale is not manufactured in France. I mean, they may be having 1,000 parts which are manufactured across the world. So whatever is our specialization, that part of Rafale should become part of us. It could be simply the window panes. Yes. It could be simply some part of the the wing or whatever. So this is the startup, and that's possible. So that's one thing. And secondly, we have some of the largest private defense manufacturer in, like Bharat Forge, for example. They are doing L&T. So we need to ensure that they have the proper linkages to government needs. Because today they are able to export. It's not that these countries are exporting also, but then the Indian market is one of the biggest. The linkage to the domestic market is the second thing to look at.
So, off late in the last couple of years, there's been this debate that there's a flight of industry from Maharashtra. Maharashtra is not getting big industries. Is this political, you think, or is it some truth to this?
The way to look at it is like China. If you've been to China and say, oh, China is down. I mean, China might be down so many times, but it is so much ahead in terms of the roads, power supply, manufacturing, per capita income.
Overcapacity.
Yeah, overcapacity. Same is true for Maharashtra. There's no industry leaving, and the first call is here. The thing that Maharashtra can do more, you see, obviously, it's like one of the most leading manufacturing countries, let's say Germany and Japan. Just these two countries. They have a lot of manufacturing capacity and a lot of congestion. And so a lot of scarcity of two things, land and then of course skilled manpower.
Labor.
So Maharashtra need to work on these two things to reduce. It's not that land is not available, but to reduce costs, to make them compatible with other cheaper destinations. So there are ways of doing it. One of the things that MITRA is working on is, if you want to acquire fresh land, the farmers' prices have gone up. But we discovered that in many MIDC estates, 25 to 30% of the industry's land is lying idle because the old industry shut down, but no new industry came because of the closure procedures are not completed. So that is the cheapest source. Land which was previously under an industry which is sick should be the first call, so that you can reduce the cost of land to the new purchasers. And second is to allow more liberal FSI for existing industrial units. I mean, industry can go spread sideways. That's not good for our green. If let us say a paper manufacturing company is spread on 100 acres and now it's manufacturing, let's say 10 tons. Now suddenly it says, no, now I can, my demand has gone to 20 tons. So instead of sitting on 10 acres, it can move to 20 acres. You think, why? You double the FSI on this 10 acres. Go vertical, congest, reduce the things, because that saves land. Land is the most precious source. But previously we didn't allow it. We changed that rule now. So we are allowing the FSI to go up from 0.5 to 1 on industrial plots. Not for, it's good for environment, because the same industry would have otherwise bought fresh green land on the side and brought more area under construction, which should have remained natural.
And my last question, Mr. Pradeshi, is that political stability, how important is it for Maharashtra's progress? We've seen a number of chief ministers, there have been government changes in Maharashtra, and you're looking at elections just 100 days away.
Mr. Fadnavis was a chief minister for 5 years. And I think in a long tenure of, I think from the start of the first chief minister of Maharashtra, Maharashtra has not been fortunate to have chief ministers who have been there for 5 long years.
I think he was the first chief minister in 3 decades to complete a full term.
I mean, you look at Madhya Pradesh, a chief minister for 15 years. You look at Gujarat, 15 years. You look at Odisha, 20 years. So when a good chief minister is there and he's able to get a long tenure, then lot of ideas. You see today, I'll tell you something very exciting. I joined this service in 1985. And in 87, I was the officer on special duty to the then Chief Secretary, Mr. D.M. Suktankar. And in the meeting, I used to attend meetings and keep notes. One of the subjects was Trans-Harbour Link, 1987, 1989. 30 years later, I joined the office of the Chief Minister, Mr. Fadnavis. And it was still on the drawing board, Trans-Harbour Link. Initially, they said we should do it through a PPP project. The PPP project failed. And they said we should give it to some Tatas, this, that, it all failed. Mr. Fadnavis said, we have to do this, otherwise this whole thing will never happen. So you know what we did? We went to Japan. Japan said, okay, we'll give you a loan for 18,000 crores under JICA. That's hardly 1 point some %. But then a second problem came. But the government of India said the guarantee has to be provided by the government of India and the state government. Now, if you put 18,000 crores loan on the books of Maharashtra, then Maharashtra's ability to draw loans, let's say for agriculture, and what will people think? They are making 18,000 crores for people of Bombay, but they are not have money to, let's say, give to the. So we said we can't squeeze our fiscal space. So we went back to Government of India, and PMO and Mr. Nripendra Mishra was there. He ensured that if you have a parastatal which has got AAA rating, in this case MMRDA, then the loan need not be shown in the books of the state.
Right.
This is the first case where a loan was taken from a foreign entity, that is JICA, on the books of MMRDA, because MMRDA had sufficient, and it didn't squeeze the fiscal space available to Maharashtra government. So those sort of things, happened because of the stability, because the Chief Minister was there for 5 years. We had to have many meetings. The same Mr. Shaktikanta Das, who was the Secretary Finance and now RBI Governor, he had a lot of discussions, and finally he came to this conclusion, the help of that we can provide this if the rating is AAA for the.
And today we have the ability to zip from where we are sitting right here in the heart of Mumbai to the mainland in 30 minutes.
In 30 minutes. I mean, the other part of that stability story is the Mumbai, the coastal road. So I used to be Secretary Forest when the discussion on coastal road used to go on, and that time Mr. Jairam Ramesh was the Minister Environment, and Chief Minister was of course another Congress Chief Minister. And I've sat in Sayadri for 3 meetings where Mr. Kunte, my predecessor, used to present on the coastal road. And the same party's environment minister would look at it and say, yes, let's do it. And nothing happened. You know that. Not even the first stone could be laid. The problem was the coastal zone allowed, the coastal regulatory zone allowed a bridge to be built or a road to be built in the sea by putting pillars. But it didn't allow by making landfill. But putting pillars for such a long road, the cost goes up by 5 times. So BMC didn't have that sort of resources. So they said, no, you'll fill up the land and use the land for real estate development. So therefore it got stuck. As soon as the new Chief Minister came, we sort of the western thing. They said, okay, we will just put a regulation, no bharao land, that is land which is can be used for any real estate development. And second safeguard we put, even if you do a land development by building a road, the CRZ line will remain the original. So it doesn't add to more buildability. Based on that, the Government of India legislated this change in the CRZ rule, and that's how the construction could start. Unfortunately, the High Court again gave a stay on that. So I was Municipal Commissioner. Then we presented very carefully the advantages to Supreme Court. Unfortunately for us, the Supreme Court sort of set aside the order of the High Court. So today we have this second road.
And you have this is again a project like the Trans-Harbour Link, which we have been hearing of for 60 years.
60 years.
West Island Freeway that they were calling.
So your question of stability, I have answered indirectly that if you get a stable government like that we got with Mr. Fadnavis, you see magic happening.
Stability, magic happening. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.